Podemos começar.
So, hi everyone. My name is Inês Silva. I'm one of the founders of Portuguese Women in Tech. I have been very active in the Portuguese startup scene for a very long time, for almost 10 years. And I've done a lot of different projects. I've run accelerators, pre-accelerators. I also work for the government. Now I run my own consultancy firm, and on the side, I have this organization called Portuguese Women in Tech. Thank you very much, Levagun and Startup Portugal, for inviting me to share a little bit about the work that we have been doing, and also about like this report that I have here that we did last year about the Portuguese tech scene and about the women in the Portuguese tech scene. But before going to the report, I would like to share with you a little bit of the work that we have been doing at Portuguese Women in Tech. So, as I mentioned before, in 2016, together with a friend of mine, Liliana Castro, we decided to launch this initiative as a way to showcase the women of the Portuguese startup scene. So, to give you an overview, like this was 2016, there were already a lot of different initiatives in the Portuguese startup scene that worked with women and work with women in technology. But we wanted to do something a little bit different. So we wanted to make sure that for the people that would come to Portugal because of the Web Summit, and also for the people that were working in the Portuguese tech scene, we could give some visibility to the women that every day were building some of the products that we all were using, but a lot of times we didn't see the women that were behind those products. So we started our website just like showcasing these women and also telling the story about what they were doing. But we soon realized that we wanted to do more. I think both Lilian and I, we are very entrepreneurial, and we saw that there was so much need for us to do something to, on one hand, make sure that we could bring and attract more women to technology, as technology is one of the areas where we are seeing the biggest growth, biggest potential, and creation of wealth, but only 40% of the professionals working in technology are actually women in Portugal. And on the other hand, we also wanted to not only give visibility to these women, but we also wanted to make sure that those women that were already working in technology could have access to tools and training and other initiatives that could help them grow in their careers. There are if you look at the statistics, women are much more likely to leave a career in tech than men. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we wanted to make sure that we could understand those reasons and also do something about it. So we launched this website, and since then we have been, as I mentioned, very active. So we first launched, so we have the awards, so the Portuguese Women in Tech Awards, where both in 2018 and 19, we award women in 9 different categories, from software engineering, of course, but also founders, designers, marketing, so all these professions that work in technology. We also have this speakers list where we have a list of 300 names of women in technology that can speak in events. It's very sad when we look at the panel and there's only men, and especially on topics that a lot of women could be speakers and have really great experiences. Doesn't make much sense to have only men in the panels. And a lot of times this happens because we just go back to the people that we know, the people that we are friends with, and it's a very easy process, and we don't want to take that much work. But actually with this list, we are showing that it's also very easy to find women, different areas, different profiles that could be great speakers to the different events. We launched 2 booklets. So with Scale Up Port and then with EDP, we wanted to show what does it mean to be a women in technology, and to use those women in technology as role models for the younger generation. So we end up distributing these booklets in schools and talking a lot about what does it mean to be a woman in technology. I go to events, and I do a lot of talks in schools around the country, and it's very common for me to ask who does know women in technology, and most of the times no one knows. So it's very hard for you to pick a profession or a job if you don't know anyone that does that job, and if you don't know anyone that does that job that looks more or less like you. So we launched this initiative. We also launched this hackathon, 70 people from all around the country focusing on developing solutions for climate action. Then we launched, of course, this our pioneer report that I will talk a little bit later. We have this workshop series with the support from Sky. And more recently, we launched two initiatives, or three initiatives actually. So we launched a mentorship program that's happening around now and is going until September. So we have 40 something mentors, 40 something mentees, and they are having calls every week. And we are also having with them some webinars and a lot of conversations about what does it mean to be a woman in technology and what they can do going forward in their careers. We also launched a book club. So we are all at home, and there's like so much great content out there. And I think some of them that great content is actually in books. So why don't we come together as a group basically, and so we can read about like what does it mean again to be a woman in technology, and a lot of like these like movements that we are seeing, so about women in the workplace. So I actually invite you to register. The registrations are still open, so feel free to do so. And actually last week we ended up like doing 5 webinars, again with women in technology, targeted at students, just to showcase like what does it mean, what is the day-to-day work of someone that works in technology. So again, as you can see, our initiatives are very much focused on visibility of the women that work in technology, creating tools like the book, the speakers list, and the hackathons and the pioneer report to give more these women more like skills and opportunities to in the area, and then of course making sure that we keep attracting more women to technology. The statistics are not very they are interesting, but they are not very happy. So if you look at Portugal it ranks #1 in terms of OECD countries, in terms of like women that study STEM. The problem is like most of these women are actually studying science and not technology. But which is great, I think, to have so many women studying STEM. But it would be even better to have also women in technology, again, because this is an area of a lot of potential, a lot of growth. So if you want to reduce the gender gap and the gender pay gap specifically, we really need to have more women in this area that is creating more jobs and also opportunities. And then here are some of the pictures of our events that we launched. This was the launch of the Pioneer Report, and now actually I want to talk to you a little bit about this the report. So we did this report in collaboration with Polar Insight and was powered by Deloitte and with the support from OutSystems. And basically this report was for the first time we end up like studying first, who are the Portuguese women in technology, what opportunities and barriers do they face at work, and how can we minimize those barriers and prevent that are preventing more women to pursue a career in technology. We wanted to try to answer these questions, just to make sure that we on one hand help ourselves in the work that we are doing, just so we can launch initiatives that are more in line with the specific needs of women in technology. Also because we were all a little bit tired of using numbers and statistics from a reality, usually the reality of the US and not necessarily our reality. And also because we want to help policymakers, civil society organizations, teaching institutions, and others to make sure that they can make more informed decisions about this. So I actually selected like a few examples of few ideas about like about the study. I really advise you to go to our website and download the Pioneer report in Portuguese and English. So we have it in both language, so you can explore it a little bit. And please feel free also to email me or email us at Portuguese Women in Tech. Ask us question in our Facebook page, that we are very happy to answer about. Basically answer questions about the study. And so one of the things that we wanted to understand is like what makes women quit their job. And basically, I really like this quote. Like it says, like, people underestimate me. I want to climb my career ladder. I realize I have to go to go that extra mile, work twice as hard to be considered as equal in terms of experience. It's just something I feel. So this is something that we are seeing a lot of times. Is like women saying that they feel they have to work twice as much to be considered for a position. And then of course they also are faced with questions like about motherhood that shows here, about marriage, that actually don't make much sense in today's times, but they still are, that we are still seeing people asking those questions. We are right now with the work that we are doing, we see a lot of like people sharing stories, and some of the stories are really weird in a sense that we would never expect anyone or any company to ask those questions in job interviews or in the work process. So there's a lot of questions about like about women and women, their role in at home, and then their role, of course, in the workplace. Then, of course, there's like this lack of representation. So basically, as I mentioned, 39% of the responders of this study, and it's important to say, like, we have more than 500 answers to this questionnaire, and we interview. So we have in-depth interviews. So the Polar Insight team that did an amazing job with this, they had in-depth interviews with 25 women. So we really were able to get a lot of information about like the women that work in this field. And as I was mentioning, 39% of the respondents say that they study in classes with only 2 women or less for every 10 men. And this is something that is very common. So people sometimes being the only one in a class of 50 or even 100 people, and this happens still today. And then 50% of the respondents said that they work in departments with only 2 women or less for every 10 men. Of course, like if this happened in school, of course, like it will happen in the companies. And then, as I mentioned, 10% of the workers are the only women in their departments. Again, in terms of lack of representation, so we have some quotes here, and I think they really show what these people are feeling. So as a startup founder, the other co-founder and I are the same age, and people only ask if he was the CEO. So this is the CEO of a startup company based in Portugal, and what she's saying is like, when they go to meetings, they always think that the guy is the CEO. Again, we have these project managers. They say like, I feel that when the technical opinion comes from a woman, if it isn't validated, oftentimes her opinion isn't taken seriously. So there's still a lot of unconscious bias, and this is something that we have been working a lot. Portuguese Women in Tech is like, what can we do to make sure that people have conscious of those unconscious bias? And unconscious bias is the fact that growing up, we have a few ideas about who the other people are, what kind of jobs are for who, and these are completely unconscious, but they still inform a lot of like our decisions and our actions and reactions over usually during the days. So as you can see here, 78% have heard sexist or rude remarks, jokes, or gestures. 74% have heard assumptions related to their career or personal interests based on the fact that they are women. 72% have been ignored until a man said that the same thing they have been saying all along. I think when we look at these numbers, it's very shocking because like this, they are very high, and a lot of people feel a little bit, they don't believe that they are real. But there are a lot of studies, and you can find them easily online, that show that, for example, when the same pitch is done by a man and a woman, exactly the same company, exactly the same pitch, it's last time I saw it like the guy is 60% more likely to get investment than the woman. So 60%, same pitch, same words, just the fact that is a woman or a man making the pitch really have an impact. So as you can see, these are things that are very ingrained in our lives. So we have to be careful, and we need to understand them. But also, I think the important thing is like, how can we build organizations in Portugal that are more inclusive? And when asked, there are of course like four different things that are like top priority. One is more initiatives focused on providing women with the skills to work, programming schools and others. Another one is more initiatives focused on uniting the female community in the tech sector, events, hackathons, and this is something that where Portuguese Women in Tech we have been doing a lot of work. Then organizational education leaders who take a firm and consistent stance against discrimination. This is actually something very, very important because a lot of times we all know about some sort of discrimination that is going on in our organization, our company, and so on. But there's not much that is being done. If there is like firm leadership from the top, this can go a long way. And something that we are seeing also, but before going there, I think just tell you the fourth one is like more initiatives focusing on recognizing and offering visibility of women in leading roles in the tech sector, awards, press coverage, and others. So we need to show like what women are doing. We need to show that there isn't only one or two, there are plenty, and this also of course end up like working very well as role models for the younger generation to actually take that step. Something also very important here is the list, the one with the lowest priority is the positive discrimination. Women having priority at the hiring stage. This is something that there's a lot of discussion about quotas, for example, about the fact that, of course, no woman wants to be in a position just because she's a woman. But also there is a lot of research that also shows that a lot of the times the women that are choose to be in those positions are actually much better than others, than the men that would be chosen. So even though I think again we all have this imposter syndrome and we no one wants to be someplace because of their gender, I think there's like some advantages of going that route. And of course Portugal has been doing a lot of that work, especially in public companies and also public organizations. So there's a lot of to do there, even though that's something that's of course not very comfortable. And then of course we can basically aggregate these ideas in four main areas. So awaken, make sure that we bring more women into the sector, either via formal education, programming schools, or other means of training. So we need to make sure that we do a lot more work here. And here, of course, schools and parents have a very important place and a role to play. Something that was very interesting that we also found out is that a lot of women that are working technology, they are doing that because they have either a brother or a cousin that was very influential in their decision to pursue a career in technology. So people, when growing up, the role models that they have around them are actually very important. And we actually made a joke about like how important cousins can be basically in our lives. Then of course we have integrate, so grow and activate the community to increase women's feeling of belonging, including meetups and hackathons. And this is like in Portugal right now, we have a lot of like a number of initiatives, some of them more like company focused, like Natixis Champion for Change, others more broad, like the Geek Girls Portugal, that they have been around for 10 years, and others more recently, like Geek Girls, I don't remember now. I forgot the name. Girls in Tech Portugal. Sorry, Girls in Tech Portugal, that are more targeted in this, more focused in this awakened stage with high school girls. So there are already a lot of communities out there, and these communities are very important to make sure that we grow and activate and increase the women's feeling of belonging. Then we have, of course, the repair. So provide organization and education leaders with necessary skills to take a firm and consistent stance against acts of discrimination. There was like a recent report that showed that a lot of organizations, a lot of people are already feeling the diversity fatigue. Basically, you have like three different groups in the organization. You have people that feel like usually part of some kind of minority, where they feel that the things that were done, they are not enough. You have people that are like the majority, where they feel that they already have done their part, and they are tired, and they don't want to hear about this anymore. And then of course you have HR and people leading diversity and inclusion areas and departments, where they feel like, okay, I want to do more, but I don't have the leadership support or the resources to go a little bit further. So actually, companies here can have a very important a space and place to legitimize to basically give support to the to HR and the diversity and inclusion department to really go and make a difference. And then of course we have the legitimize, so increase the number of initiatives focusing on recognizing and offer visibility of women in leading roles in the tech sector. And this of course again goes back a lot to the events. So it doesn't make sense at all that a lot of our events still have panels with all men. And I think we need to make a big effort to make sure that women have a place at the table, and because when they do, they really make the most of it. And I think that's something a lot of a lot of conference organizers can make a difference. And of other initiatives like awards and conversations and giving visibility to women that are working in this area. So for us, again, for more information, you can go to the report, pioneersportugal.com. You can then download the report in English and Portuguese, and you can explore things even further. It's more than 50 pages of detailed data about who are these women, what their barriers, and what can be done. I wanted to focus a little bit more on what can be done, because I think that's because we all recognize there is a problem. We all recognize there is not many women working technology in Portugal. This is very similar, basically all around the world. I think we can do better, and I think here companies, also schools, can have actually a very big impact. I think just to end this conversation, this talk, I always like to give some recommended reading. So you have the first book, Protopia, is actually very cool. It gives you a lot of data actually about like what does it mean to be a woman working in a tech company in Silicon Valley. This is a very interesting book. Then you have What Works, Gender Equality by Design. This is about like how can we design incentives systems so we can make sure that we have more women in technology. Then two books that are a little bit less technical, but much more like about basically the role of women in our society. So we should all be feminists. This is the book that I have been recommending and giving as a gift the most. It's a very small book, but very powerful about what it means to be a feminist. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions that were like created over the years about being what means being a feminist. Being a feminist is not more than just wanting everyone to have equal access to opportunities, in basically being the same. And I think it's very interesting. And then you have Men Explain Things to Me. This is actually is a group of essays written by Rebecca Solnit, that is an amazing author. And one of the essays about that has the name Men Explain Things to Me is about like a guy that is using one of her articles to explain something to her and not believing what she was saying. So it's a very interesting story that I think really opens up our minds to the role of women in society, the role of women at work, and the reason why we need more women in technology. And basically, this is it. Please follow us on social media. We have a lot of initiatives going on. We'll be launching new initiatives in the next a couple of months, and yeah, and feel free to also to reach out to us. We are always very eager to talk about the work we are doing, the work that we want to do, and yeah, and explain anything that it was not clear in my conversation. So thank you very much.